und verfeindet ein Leid erdulden.
Our struggle will lead to victory. The German people will rise.
Stop. Forget everything you think you know about dictators. He wasn't born with hatred. He was born with hunger and humiliation. In 1907, a young man named Adolf Hitler arrived in Vienna, full of dreams. He believed destiny had chosen him to be a great artist. But when the Academy of Fine Arts rejected him, not once, but twice, that dream died. He was poor, sleeping in shelters, painting postcards for pennies. And in that world of desperation, a dark voice began whispering in his mind, "It's not your fault. Someone took your place." Vienna was a melting pot of prejudice. Slowly, those anti-Semitic newspapers and nationalist propaganda started to shape him. The failure of one man started turning into the hatred of an entire race. What began as pain turned into purpose. This deep, personal wound gave him a dark purpose, but it took a global war to give him an identity. Next, discover how World War I gave this homeless, failed artist something he never had before: a uniform, a flag, and a reason to fight. The transformation is chilling. The soldier without a home, war and wounds. World War I became Hitler's escape. He finally had structure, belonging, and a flag to serve. He wasn't a hero, but he was brave, carrying messages through the trenches. When the war ended, Germany was shattered. Inflation, hunger, riots, the proud nation humiliated. For Hitler, the defeat was personal. When the Treaty of Versailles forced massive reparations, he felt the country had been stabbed in the back, and he found an explanation, the same one he learned in Vienna. The Jews betrayed Germany. It was a lie, but it gave him meaning. He became addicted to that lie. Hitler found his meaning in a lie, but soon he found something even more powerful: his voice. Next, the terrifying moment in a small beer hall where Hitler discovered his ability to move crowds, and how he turned a minor fringe group into the unstoppable Nazi movement. In 1919, in a small beer hall in Munich, he stood up and spoke at a meeting of the German Workers' Party. At first, his words were clumsy, but his anger, that was real. He spoke not with logic, but with fury. He discovered something terrifying. His voice could move crowds. It could give broken people direction, even if that direction led straight into darkness. He joined, then took over the party. He renamed it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. He practiced every movement, every pause, every shout. They didn't see a failed artist anymore. They saw a savior. Hitler had the crowds, but he failed at brute force. The 1923 Beer Hall Putsch was a complete disaster. He went to prison, but that failure in 1923 was his greatest teacher. Next, witness how inside a jail cell, Hitler wrote his dark prophecy, Mein Kampf, and drew the chilling blueprint for World War II. Prison didn't break him, it transformed him. He realized that you could not defeat the system by attacking it. You had to infect it from within. Inside Landsberg prison, he dictated Mein Kampf. It was not just a book, it was a prophecy. He wrote about race, conquest, and destiny, declaring that Germany's salvation lay in purifying its blood and conquering new lands in the East. Most intellectuals dismissed it as lunacy, but it was a roadmap, every step clearly drawn. The world ignored it. Hitler had the roadmap, but he lacked the political opportunity. He needed chaos. The world was about to hand him the perfect weapon, a global financial crisis. Next, see how the Great Depression became the monster maker, turning mass despair into the ultimate fuel for the Nazi engine. Crisis creates monsters. The Great Depression, 1929. The world collapses. Banks fail, jobs vanish. Despair spreads like disease. In Germany, Poverty becomes unbearable. People stop believing in democracy, in hope, and in that vacuum, Hitler rises. He offers not facts, but emotions, not truth, but certainty. He promises to restore pride, rebuild strength, erase shame. His message was relentless. Germany did not fall. It was betrayed. Propaganda became his weapon, and lies became his truth. In 1933, the unthinkable happened. Adolf Hitler, the failed artist from Vienna, became Chancellor of Germany. The political elites thought they could control him and manage his madness. Next, we detail how, within mere weeks, Hitler used one catastrophic event, the burning of the Reichstag, to legally turn a chancellorship into a total, unchecked dictatorship. The death of democracy was signed into law. Weeks after taking office, the Reichstag was set on fire. Hitler blamed the communists. The government, in panic, gave him emergency powers. Then came the Enabling Act, granting him full authority to make laws without parliament. Germany had become a prison wrapped in a flag. The dictator had risen, legally. The propaganda machine. Joseph Goebbels understood that people don't crave truth, they crave belief. He turned Hitler into a myth. Goebbels filled the airwaves with lies so constant, they became background noise. The swastika replaced thought. A whole nation was hypnotized. With Germany fully under his command, Hitler started testing the world. Next, the terrifying lesson he learned from global silence. He moved troops into the Rhineland, annexed Austria, and waited. If no one stops you, you are allowed to continue. This arrogance led directly to the world's greatest conflict. 1938, Hitler annexes Austria. Silence. The Munich Agreement gives him the Sudetenland. And Prime Minister Chamberlain returns home declaring peace for our time. But Hitler laughs. He never wanted peace. He wanted domination. September 1st, 1939. German tanks roll into Poland. The Second World War begins. Blitzkrieg. Lightning conquest and growing madness. Blitzkrieg. Lightning war. France collapses in 40 days. His victories fed his delusion. He begins to believe he is chosen by destiny, invincible. Then, in 1941, he launches Operation Barbarossa, an invasion of the Soviet Union. It was his biggest gamble and his greatest mistake. The winter came. His generals begged to retreat, but Hitler refused. The myth of his genius died in the frozen fields of Stalingrad. But as his armies stalled, his darkest purpose accelerated. Next, the chilling 1942 Wannsee Conference, where evil became a systematic industrial policy, the final solution. (1942) Wannsee Conference. 15 men in suits gather around a polished table. Their agenda: the final solution to the Jewish question. This was not madness, it was method. They planned the systematic extermination of an entire people. 6 million Jews. The Holocaust was not chaos, it was bureaucracy, train schedules, gas orders, efficiency reports. Death became an industry, all justified by one man's hatred turned law. The collapse, the bunker in the end. 1945, Berlin burns. The empire he promised would last 1,000 years is gone in 12. In his bunker, Hitler rages at phantom enemies. On April 30th, he and Eva Braun die together, he by his own hand. His body is burned, his name forever cursed. The world saw the camps. The horror was beyond comprehension. At the Nuremberg trials, justice tried to speak, but millions of ordinary people had to ask themselves one question: how did we let this happen? The answer was fear, obedience, and silence. Hitler's story is not just history, it is a warning, a reminder that the line between civilization and chaos is thinner than we think. Evil does not begin with violence. It begins with words, with fear, with division, with the belief that some lives matter less than others. We study him not to glorify his power, but to understand our responsibility. Because history doesn't always repeat itself, but it always whispers. And if we stop listening, it may scream again.